Hi guys, my name is Mike.
Yo.
I'm a circus performer on a little corona hiatus, and this is the first video in my new series, Black Belt Skills. Black Belt Skills is all about the various tips, methods, and strategies that you can use to bring yourself 1% closer to achieving mastery in your chosen physical field. Like most things in life, I was first introduced to the concept of sleep through the Joe Rogan podcast. Okay, obviously I knew what the concept of sleep was, I just didn't know anything else about it. I never thought about it in any way other than it being an inconvenience. After watching the episode of Joe Rogan with Matthew Walker, a sleep scientist, I completely changed my outlook on sleep. The link to the podcast is in the description. I would definitely recommend watching that. I would also recommend buying this book, Why We Sleep. So obviously you might not have time to read the book right now or watch the podcast right now. So I'm going to give you a little intro from what I've learned from Matthew Walker himself. If there's one message that you can take away from this, it is sleep for 8 hours a night. Obviously there are some people where that is an impossibility. Maybe you have children, or you work the night shift, or you work really early, whatever it is. I know that it's not possible for some people, but if it is possible and you are able to do this, then you are really doing yourself a disservice to not have 8 hours. One of the first things that always sticks out to me is a lot of people don't know their base level. They don't know what their true baseline is. Lots of people say, I can function fine off of 5 hours sleep, or I can function well off of 6 hours, etc, etc, etc. The truth is, a lot of these people that say that, they don't know how they would feel if they had got the 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. The principle is, unless you've experienced it for yourself, maybe you just don't know. There's a paragraph at the beginning of chapter 6 that I'd like to read. Amazing breakthrough. Scientists have discovered a revolutionary new treatment that makes you live longer, it enhances your memory, makes you more creative, it makes you look more attractive, it keeps you slim and lowers food cravings, it protects you from cancer and dementia, it wards off colds and the flu, it even lowers your risk of heart attacks and stroke, not to mention diabetes. You'll feel happier, less depressed, and less anxious. Are you interested? Something I should mention is this book is full of references and sources. This is all proven in the scientific literature or whatever. So I've picked a couple of points that I think are the most relevant and exciting to talk about from the book. The first one is a study that came from a pianist, and the pianist basically said that he could get completely stuck on a piece, and he would actually get to the point where he was practicing over and over trying to get it right, and it would end up getting worse, not getting better. And then what would happen is he would stop, he would go to sleep, the next day he would come back to it, and then suddenly, almost magically, he could do the piece much better than he could the previous day, and he could go further, he could do it better, he could recall it more accurately, without any practice in between. The only thing was rest and a night of sleep. So this was particularly interesting to me because I've experienced the exact same thing with learning the piano, but also with acrobatics, with juggling, with all of these skill-based things. At some point, it becomes useless to continue practice for the day, and you have to put it away and come back tomorrow. And often, when you come back the next day, you are magically better. So this was tested. There were two groups. There was one group that would learn the sequences in the morning, and then they would be retested 12 hours later at night. And there was a second group that would learn the sequences at night, and then they'd be tested 12 hours later in the morning. So the second group had a full night's sleep in between their learning and the test, and the first group only had the daytime, they had no sleep. The group that had the full 8 hours of sleep in between, they showed a 20% jump in performance speed and a 35% jump in performance accuracy. Now, obviously, I don't want to jump to any conclusions because I'm not a scientist myself, but by the sounds of it, if you are someone that was training twice a day, 3 days a week, compare that with what we've just learned from the study to somebody that trains once a day, 7 days a week. It makes way more sense to train every day less than more on just a few days. And now, something to make this study even more interesting, they actually found which part of your sleep was responsible for the learning of the motor skills. And they found that this area of your brain was stimulated the most in the last 2 hours of sleep in an 8 hours night of sleep. This really does mean you need to get the 8 hours of sleep. Otherwise, you don't get hours 7 and 8, where this area of the brain is working the most. I thought that was pretty crazy. Anyway, next, let's get on to some more sports-specific studies. It was shown that if you get less than 8 hours sleep per night, your time to physical exhaustion drops by between 10 to 30%, and your aerobic output is significantly reduced. What this means is you are gonna get physically exhausted 10 to 30% faster if you do not get 8 hours of sleep. If this is true, which it seems to be true because he's studied it and these are the results of the study, then that has some massive implications to the way that we are training. If you really want to be the best physically, you need to have the most time before you're physically exhausted possible. The next chart I'm going to show you. This is a chart comparing the chance of injuries to athletes that got less than 7 hours of sleep a night and to those that got more than 8 hours of sleep a night. What you can see is the chance of injury is over double in the group that get less than 7 hours of sleep a night. Now, the final sports related point is from NBA player performance chart, and they basically compared stats from players that had more than 8 hours and players that had less than 8 hours. So I'm just going to read you a couple of these. In the 8 hours plus group, there was a 12% increase in minutes played, a 29% increase in points per minute, a 2% increase in 3-point percentages, a 9% increase in free throw percentages, and in the less than 8 hours of sleep group, there was a 37% more increase in turnovers and a 45% increase in fouls. My final point is going to be now not talking about the benefits of having more sleep, but now showing the dangers of not having enough. We've already talked about the injuries and whatnot, but this is a little more serious. The study is on car accidents, and it was a comparison of 7,000 car accidents in the US. This study was done over 2 years, and it showed if you have less than 5 hours of sleep, your chance of being in an accident is increased threefold. If you have had less than 4 hours of sleep and you go behind a wheel, you are 11.5 times more likely to be involved in a car accident. Would you do a partner acrobatic training session on less than 5 hours sleep, on less than 4? Have you ever done it? I probably have. And you can really just, transpose those findings onto whatever it is you do. So to conclude, make sure you're getting 8 hours of sleep every single night. I can recommend an app called Sleep Cycle. As you can see, here are all of my days that I've had recently. The other really cool thing it does is if you want to wake up at say 8:30, it will have a time period of between 8 to 8:30. And it will wake you up in your lightest stage of sleep. So it wakes you up when it is the most natural time for you to wake up within the period that you've set it. Check out the podcast with Matthew Walker, check out his book, and subscribe to my channel if you like this. If you watched it this far, please let me know what you think in the comments. Leave me a like, and I will see you for the next episode of Black Belt Skills.